All right, so a lot's been said tonight. Marty, where are you? He's right here. All right. Well, you've been honored a lot. There you are. A lot's been said, but it's not over for you. What Patti Smith said about Lily Gladstone was powerful and true. What Daniel said about you, Marty, was powerful and true. What you just spoke about Leo was powerful and true. And needs to be said, and what you just spoke about the movie was stunning and true. But one thing has to be said, the last thing of the evening, I hope, is about leadership. And when I was 21, and I was just moved to New York, I was trying to start a theater company. And people would ask, well, what do you want to do? And I remember my friends and I would all say, we want to do what Scorsese does. We want to put vital truth. We want to put real human beings, visceral stories. We want to put blood and sweat and real pain and real love in front of an audience. That's all we want to do. And we knew it would be hard. And I remember it was about 1991, and Cape Fear was coming out, and we were starting this theater company. And I said, I know what we got to do. We have to stay up all night, and we have to go to the first screening of Cape Fear, right? And we did that, and it was fun. And about a little over 30 years go by, and I still do that. I don't stay up all night evermore, but I still see every movie, the first screening. I run a small mom and pop film company, and we close the doors, and we go see Killers of the Flower Moon. And it's hard to really even imagine sustaining that kind of everyone, you have to stop what you're doing and pay attention level of excellence that Martin Scorsese has maintained all these years. And for the whole of my lifetime, he has been the leader. He sets the bar for what this profession has to offer. He can take some of the most loathsome individuals that our species has to offer and show us their humanness, helping us better understand ourselves, helping us better understand the world around us, help us to see our past, and help us to see our future. I realize that I'm an actor, and I see his storytelling through my own specific gaze, but it is this consistent respect for acting that inspires me so much. It's in every movie, the complexity of emotion, the level of empathy and understanding in every person that steps in front of his lens. I have to say, I've had some of the best moments of my actual life in a movie theater. When I first moved to New York, I saw a double feature of Raging Bull and Taxi Driver. I went and saw Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. I went and saw New York, New York. I saw King of Comedy. I saw A Last Temptation with people protesting out in front. I saw Color of Money. I saw Goodfellas. I saw Age of Innocence. I saw Casino. I saw Gangs of New York. I saw Kundun. I saw Wolf of Wall Street. I saw Hugo with my kids. And he's also my favorite documentary filmmaker. So we'll table that. I mentioned those favorites of mine. It needs to be spoken in the room tonight, what we're talking about, and the level of excellence and the leadership that is provided for all of us to see what it is we're trying to do. And now we come to the Killers of the Flower Moon, which is one of the finest achievements of one of the finest careers of our time. And it's playful, it's meticulous, it's ravishingly epic, and it's detailed and nuanced. It's why we go to the movies. It's because its imagination is full and complete. So, to you, to the cast, to Lily Gladstone, to the genius Leonardo DiCaprio, to my hero, Robert De Niro, to all the artisans and artists involved in making this. Thelma, I saw your eyes tonight. No wonder this work happens. These eyes are unbelievable. I'm so, the way that you see, I'm so grateful. to all the artists involved in making this film, what you've given us, what you've given the generations to come, it is a film classic for the ages with a beating heart and a clear conscience. I am so proud to present the National Board of Review's Best Film of the Year to The Killers of the Flower Moon!
Thank you so much, Ethan. Wonderful, extraordinary actor and a terrific filmmaker, by the way. Okay? Here they are. Okay. Careful, Thelma. Okay. Yancey and Talee. Where is it? You guys say a few words? Yancey Redcorn and Talee Redcorn.
Yeah. My name's Yancey Redcorn, and I play Chief Bonnycastle. And I'm 4 months older than Talee, and he and I actually grew up together. And it's in our tradition where the first son always leads. But as a first son, I'm going to use my wisdom to let him lead off.
New York, Nikashe, Laganipashe, the good people of New York. Shia Toa Kepshe, Kombrad Kai. I've returned. I'd like to say a few things. At this point, I played the traditional leader in this film, Killers of the Flower Moon. But at home, we're dealing with the struggles of life day in, day out. Getting our children fed, making sure our elders do well. One of the things we deal with is diabetes among our community. We're struggling and fighting that tooth and nail. So, you know, we're in our meadow, as our Deer Clan people say. And all of a sudden, we look up. There's an Osage word in our Ta Nikashenka. All the deer had come up and look. And that's when this great movement came over the hill, and it was this movie, Killers of the Flower Moon. And we were confused, but the way they handled it, they came first, as Mr. Marty said, and our kids call him Uncle Marty now. He came and he reached out to the hardest hit community, which was Gray Horse, and he described that meeting to you. So after a while, we built the trust that this story of our tragedy could be told. So I want to thank Marty. I want to thank the cast. I'd like to thank all that's involved in this movie for reaching out through this barrier that we have among our people worldwide, showing love, care, and respect, and saying, we'd love to tell your story. And it's done. One of the main people that I think is a hero now is Robert De Niro, who stated, and I heard, he wanted to do all his lines in the Osage language. So I think that discussion happened between him and Marty. And at that point, we heard about that, and we were so elated. Our children think him as a hero. So without further ado, I'm going to ask my cousin to come up. Thank you all.
Thank you, Talee, or brother. We're first cousins, but our dads were brothers, but we still call each other brothers. So, and he's always well-versed in the Osage tradition. I actually happen to be a name giver in our clan, the Sijiwashtagi clan, which is the peacemaker clan. So, you know, he and I are filled with peace, and we're not, if we have to, we become warriors, but we prefer not to. But before I say anything about this cast, I don't know if Daniel Day-Lewis is still here. I would be remiss to say in 2007, my son was 8 years old, and I promise you, he's going to be a filmmaker because he lives and breathes it. But my parents picked him up and took him back to their house, and when I got off work, I went and picked him up. And he said, we need to watch this movie. And I said, what? And he goes, yeah, have you seen There Will Be Blood? and I go, well, yeah, I did, but I saw it in the theaters. And he goes, well, we need to watch it again. So I didn't think any more about it until the next morning. I asked him, I said, what do you want for breakfast? When I woke him up, and he woke up and he goes, you're a bastard from a basket case. So I got to hear that for a whole year. So thank you, Daniel Day-Lewis. But I wanted to thank Marty. I've said this before in other interviews and stuff. He really earned our trust. Talee and I, as Osages, he earned our trust because, as you know, in the 20s, from what happened to us, we didn't trust anybody. And so he came in, and as he said, he went to Gray Horse, he ate dinner, he listened to all the elders, and he earned our trust. And it took a while, but we finally started calling him Uncle Marty. And he really just embraced the Osage culture. And I just want to thank Marty, but I also want to thank Ellen, Thelma Schoonhaver, Marianne Bauer, Daniel Lupi, Rodrigo. I mean, these people really came and embraced our culture, and it was very important. They just didn't tell us what to do. They listened to what we wanted to do. And not to keep everybody here, but I also wanted to point out that there's two actors here that played Osages, and one of them is William Below over here. He played Henry Roan. And he embodied, Henry Roan was our cousins, the Grays' great-grandfather and grandfather. So we knew the story, and he embraced what he was going through. At the time, he didn't have control. He didn't have control of his finances, his land. He couldn't make a decision, and he was a proud Osage, but he could not live in the world that he was in. I mean, and it just must have just drove him, crazy. And it reminds me of Talee and I's great-grandfather, Raymond Redcorn, who was poisoned during this time. And my grandfather and his two brothers, they tried to investigate it. They said he was poisoned, but nothing ever happened. So my dad never got to meet his grandfather and his brothers and his sisters. And so that took that away from us and all those stories that he had, because he and his brother were one of the last of the non-Anjingas, which Talee plays. And so we lost a lot of learning from that, and my dad did too, but they did the best they could. And now I wanted to talk about Lily, and I've said this before, I've said it in another time, but when we were in a roundhouse scene, and she's sitting over there, and I'm talking, and I had to look at her, because, her sister had been murdered. And the look on her face reminded me of my grandmother who lived through the 20s and all of her aunts, my great aunts. And as I watched her, I could see my grandmother and my great aunts in her expressions as I'm talking about it, and the way she looked and the tears in her eyes, it almost made me cry. And, I'm getting emotional now. But I just wanted to thank Lily for embracing and listening to the elders, the elder aunts, all the sisters, the nieces, and really, Lily, you embodied an Osage, strong, resilient woman that made it through that, just like my grandmother and my great aunts. And so I just wanted to point that out. These two actors embodied Osages, and I appreciate it. And with that, I'm just going to introduce Marty. Thank you.
Thank you, Yancey and Talee. I can give one more example of how we worked together, and how I think you could sense from Yancey and Talee the close nature of how all this came about. Because people talk about, you work with the Osage Nation and everything was so authentic. It goes beyond mere authenticity. I mean, authenticity, yes, we had, as much as possible, every costume, the costume beadwork, otter skin hats, ribbon work, all kinds of things were as accurate as possible. The language was being learned again, from what I understand, in terms of being taught. Chris taught Lily and Leo and Bob, the language, and others too. The contribution, to give you an idea, this picture, we made it together, you know. There was a sense, I wanted a sense of freedom, but I had to have control at the same time. So I had to do it within certain limitations, you know. There's this scene in the Roundhouse that you just talked about where they're all sitting there, and Yancey had actually improvised some of his dialogue about, you know, who are these guys who come to us now? They're nothing but common vags. It's a short for vagabonds. They say they're my friends, but I don't believe they are, you know. Some of that was improvised, but primarily the whole scene, we were in this set of a real roundhouse we had made, and it was very hot. And I'm watching this, and I'm listening to it, and it was Yancey and Everett Waller sitting next to him, and Everett was the bigger fella. Yancey plays Chief Bonnycastle, and Everett Waller plays Paul Red Eagle. Now, we're not trained actors, you know. So we're sitting there and we're dealing with the scene. And bottom line is a lot of the dialogue came from the transcripts of these meetings that actually happened in 1920 and 21. But I started to I said, it's good, but it sounds, it's something not quite right yet. I didn't know what to do. And it would seem to me we were getting all this exposition. We needed it. We certainly needed it, but they needed some other kind of life in it. But I needed then to turn the camera and shoot some close-ups of the people reacting, the women and some of the other Osage men and boys and girls reacting. And I knew that Everett Waller was a very expressive man, very open, very, very much. He would on cue. He would just go into monologues and speeches. I said, I need some off-camera dialogue, okay? I'm going to put 2 cameras down. And while I'm over here, I want you to get this person, that person. Could you do me a favor and say some things off camera just to provoke them, get them going, to get some looks in their eyes and stuff? Okay, just. So I set it up. I go out for a second. I go into the little tent. And I see the 2 angles on. I see the face of this person. It was a little trouble in terms of the tightness in the scene, so we had to be careful. And I hear this noise and this rumbling. All of a sudden, De Niro comes out and he goes, Marty, come back in. Come back in. And I went in and I saw Everett going at it off camera. And it was beautiful, I thought. It was beautiful. We cut and I said, can you do that sitting down? And he said, it's your world. And they sat down next to Yancey, and that's what you see in the film. He just goes on, and I want to get this right because we set the 2 cameras down. And what happened was that all the distinctions between historical and contemporary, between documentary and fiction just melted away. He spoke for the ages, you see, and a direct plea, and it ends. It ends with the beautiful line in which he says, you know, we never prayed for the great life. We never prayed for a great life. We just prayed for life. We just prayed for life. And that's how the whole picture was made. Thank you.